A double dip of daily fantasy delight this weekend in Pocono for the NASCAR Cup Series. A couple of races lined up for Pocono, the Pocono Organics CBD 325 on Saturday and the Explore the Pocono Mountains 350 on Sunday. We're going to break down both races from a DFS perspective, get you set from a strategy perspective, and let you know my favorite drivers for Saturday's race to get you keyed up for what should be an exciting weekend for the NASCAR Cup Series. Welcome on into the Heat Check Fantasy Podcast, powered by numberFire. That's right here on the FanDuel Podcast Network and numberFire.com. My name is Jim Sonis. I am a senior writer and analyst for numberFire.com, here to break down the Pocono doubleheader this weekend from a NASCAR DFS perspective based on the rules and salary over at FanDuel.com. Lock for the Saturday race is at 3 p.m. Eastern on Saturday. And lock on Sunday is at 3:30 p.m. Eastern. So we have the ability to fill out lineups now for the Saturday race. Sunday race we can't do until the Saturday race is complete. You could technically do it, but you shouldn't if you want to fill out good lineups. But you'll have between the end of the race Saturday and 3:30 Sunday to fill out lineups, because the finishing order on Saturday will tell us where everyone starts on Sunday. So what we'll do for today for the podcast is I will run through a strategy for both races first. Then I will go through my tier-by-tier breakdown for the first race after that. If you're listening to this on Sunday and you don't have the Saturday race there, I'll put the timestamp for when the Sunday analysis begins in the track breakdown part in the description up on numberFire.com. So if you're listening after the Saturday race, go to numberFire.com, check out the podcast post, or also, I guess, in the description on the podcast on Apple or Spotify. Check out the timestamp there. Go to the strategy section for Sunday. We'll talk about what to look for there. I'm not going to be able to rank drivers for that race because it depends a lot on where drivers start. It also depends on what they do during the Saturday race. So can't do driver breakdown there, but can give you strategy to let you know what you should do for that race. So whole lot of stuff to go down for today, but also a lot of stuff here on the numberFire Daily Fantasy Podcast feed. We have Austin Swaim's UFC Vegas 30 podcast posted, getting you set for the Saturday card, a 13-fight card. He broke down the 5-round main event, but also all of his favorite plays in each salary tier over on FanDuel that is already posted, as is the MLB DFS solo shot for the Friday slate. Check those out by searching for the numberFire Daily Fantasy Podcast feed wherever you get your podcasts. And if you like what you hear, leave us a rating and review as well. Hey, soccer fans, this season, FanDuel and Captain Morgan are teaming up to give you a one-of-a-kind soccer contest. Introducing Captain Morgan Soccer Pick'em, a weekly fantasy contest that is entirely free to play. The contest is simple. All you have to do is make quick predictions for Saturday games this soccer season. You'll earn points for each correct pick and compete for a chance to win up to $3,000 in prizes every single week. Head over to FanDuel and enter the Captain Morgan Soccer Pick'em today. Must be 21 plus to participate. For more details, visit FanDuel.com or download the FanDuel Fantasy app. Eligibility restrictions apply, and don't forget to make your game day more delicious and sub in the captain. Let's talk about the track breakdown for this week, and we'll start things off with Saturday, then go to Sunday. And the good thing is we got a good template of what to expect this weekend, because they did run 5 double headers last year. So we know how to handle the second race, which we'll run through in just a bit. The first race will feel similar to what we've done at road courses. That's where we find an assumed winner in tournaments, but accept place differential where we can find it. The reasoning for that is that the race is similar to a road course in length. It is 130 laps, which means there are 13.0 points available on FanDuel for laps led. That leads to reduced upside for drivers starting at the front of the pack. So we have an incentive to look for drivers starting deeper who can get place differential points. And for this specific race, we do have drivers who can get us that. Of the top 9 drivers in aggregate average running position in the 550 horsepower package this year, 4 will start 15th or lower. 2 of them are outside the top 25. 2 more drivers outside the top 20, starting outside the top 20, rank in the top 14 in aggregate average running position in this package. So we have drivers who should have speed starting further back on Saturday, and that's what we want here. And those are the guys, those drivers in position to get place differential are the drivers we want for cash games, and they are our core plays for tournaments as well. That doesn't mean you need to ignore the front, because we always call this the assumption game for tournaments, where you pick an assumed winner, the driver you think will win, probably Kyle Larson, and you lock them in no matter where they are starting, because if they get you 43 points for a win, they're probably going to be in the perfect lineup. I think there's been like one race since FanDuel started offering stuff where the winning driver was not in the perfect lineup. I think it was like a restrictor plate, or I guess pack racing race, where there was a bunch of place differential. They're going to be in there. And it allows you to stack the back without passing up Kyle Larson, who is phenomenal. So you do want to pick an assumed winner for tournaments at times. And Larson's not the only guy who can win there. He's just the most likely winner and the most obvious one. So using him as an example, but the overall thought process of picking an assumed winner is in play once again for this week. That's what we should want for Saturday. Get an assumed winner for tournaments, and then accept place differential where you can find it outside of that, both for cash games and for your core for tournaments. For Sunday, it's the same, where you do want to accept place differential where it is available to you. It's just going to be available all over the place. They're going to invert the top 20 finishers. So the winner on Saturday will start 20th. The driver who finishes second will start 19th. That means we are going to have drivers who we know have massive speed in the middle of the pack. And it's an amazing opportunity for DFS that we have to exploit. As mentioned, we have 5 doubleheaders to look at from last year. And it means we have 5 races to look at with an invert. There were 25 drivers in perfect lineups across those 5 races. 21 of those 25 drivers started the race 14th or lower. That is so perfect. The ideal strategy that we want here for this race worked out with no flaws last year. You want to build around drivers starting in the middle of the pack or lower and make them your core, both for cash games and for tournaments. I mentioned there 14th or lower. That part is relevant because drivers who finish outside the top 20 on Saturday will start outside the top 20 on Sunday. And those drivers were often part of those perfect lineups. 11 of the 21 drivers who started outside the top 14 started behind the invert, so finished 21st or worse in the first race. So despite having some sort of issue on Saturday, they paid off on Sunday. This increases the value of watching Saturday's race if you can. You want to identify drivers who may have finished poorly due to issues rather than speed. You know, bad stop, loose wheel, speeding penalty, stuff like that. You want to find drivers who finished better than their speed said they should have. If they finished poorly because they were slow, they'll probably be slow on Sunday too, because drivers will use the same car unless they crash. But if you can buy low on someone who finished poorly due to circumstances outside of their control, take advantage and load up on them for the Sunday race. It is worth noting that a driver starting inside the top 10 did make 4 out of the 5 perfect lineups, but it was always just one driver inside the top 10. And that driver actually had a salary of $9,300 or lower each time. So it's weirdly the opposite of what you might expect. My guess is that it's guys who had decent speed who can maintain track position once they get it. You know, guys like Austin Dillon, Matty Benedetto, maybe not like the most efficient passers, but guys who they've got speed and they can keep it if you give it to them. So I am okay getting sprinkles of drivers you think might be able to hold their own starting up at the front, even for Sunday's race. But it's just one per lineup. Just for tournaments. Your core for cash games and your core for tournaments should be leaning heavily on those drivers starting further back. As far as data to emphasize, for Sunday, lean heavily on what you saw on Saturday, because again, same cars, they're going to be pretty similar to what we saw in that first race. But outside of that, I am just going to go all in on speed in the 550 horsepower package. We don't have any relevant races to look at from this year at big, fast tracks. So basically, you just want guys with speed. And if you look at the 550 package so far this year, that's going to tell you who has been fast. If you look back at last year's races at Pocono, it's going to feel kind of weird because, you know, like Kevin Harvick ran well. He's been underwhelming, to be generous, in the 550 package this year. His teammates have been pretty hideous, I would say. So I think it's important to put more emphasis on current form in the 550 package than track history at Indy, et cetera, because things have changed a lot over the past calendar year. We'll talk plenty about drivers who fit that mold well in the tier by tier breakdown. So for Saturday, find an assumed winner, get place differential where you can find it. For Sunday, stack the middle and the back of the pack and get guys who can get you place differential, maybe get sprinkles with someone up front who can maintain track position. But overall, our core will be place differential outlets for both races, frankly. And we should have outlets available to us for both. So that is a reassuring feeling. So that is strategy for this race. Let's move now to the tier by tier breakdown for the Sunday race again, or the Saturday race. Again, I'm focusing just on Saturday here because it will change a lot based on starting order for Sunday. So if you're listening to this on Sunday, you can listen for some thoughts, but it's not going to be super concrete analysis and advice, just because it does depend so much on what we see on Saturday and where drivers start. But for Saturday, the elite tier is Kyle Larson at $14,500 through Martin Truex Jr. at $12,500. Larson is the obvious assumed winner for race number 1. He is starting on the pole. He is at 19% in my win simulations to win, and that's probably too low. Only one other driver, though, has win odds above 10%. Larson has had a top 5 average running position in all 5 relevant races so far this year, and he's always been good on big, fast tracks, usually Michigan, but that translates here as well. I have no reason to push back on Larson outside of where he's starting this race, which is on the pole. So Larson, just do it. I think that from an assumed winner perspective, he can be your guy for sure. With that said, Denny Hamlin is a decent pivot. He is starting back in 10th, which means he has a tiny bit of place differential juice, and he is awesome at Pocono. 6-time winner here. He has won 2 out of 4 races in the 550 horsepower package at Pocono. He was runner-up in another, and he's been good, if not great, in the 550 package so far this year. So I think that if you're looking for a pivot off of Larson, Hamlin may be that guy. We'll talk about one more guy in the second tier who could be that guy. But Hamlin, interesting as an assumed winner at $13,500. I'm going to put Kyle Busch ahead of Martin Truex Jr., despite the fact Busch is starting 10 spots higher. Busch has just been better than Truex in the 550 package. So even though Truex is starting 15th, I'm not as high on him as I expected to be entering this week. I haven't seen enough from him in the 550 package to be super enthused. So I'm going to rank this tier Larson 1, Hamlin 2, Kyle Busch 3, Martin Truex Jr. 4. And again, that could change based on what we see during the Saturday race. The second tier is Kevin Harvick at $12,000 through Joey Logano at $10,000. There are 2 guys in this tier starting super deep in the pack who you want to build around. Those guys are Chase Elliott and Ryan Blaney. Elliott is starting back in 29th. He got disqualified last week, which is why he's starting so low. But he grades out well. He finished 4th in the second Pocono race last year. He enters with 2 straight top 5 finishes in this package, and he was also runner-up in Charlotte. So really good form for Chase. I love him here at $11,000. Blaney is a former Pocono winner. Did that back in 2017. He has not finished top 5 since, but he has been good enough in this package for me to have a lot of confidence in him. He won in Atlanta. He had a top 8 average running position in both Vegas and Kansas. Blaney is 10-3, starting back in 27th. Between these 2 guys, I would rank Elliott higher, but I want a lot of both, often in the same lineup. And I think that for cash games, you plug in Chase, plug in Blaney, then go from there. They are the top 2 guys of any salary for Saturday's race. Brad Keselowski is starting 18th. I would also mention him as a place differential guy. He has been better in this package than the 750 package this year, which is the inverse of his teammate Joey Logano. I feel like they've done it where Keselowski is all out for 550, Logano's all out for 750, and then Blaney's kind of like the hybrid guy. It seems like that's the way Penske broke this year. I'm not sure if it was intentional or if I'm just reading too much into it, but it kind of feels like that's the way they've broken for this year. I'd also mention William Byron as a potential assumed winner at 11.5. He gets you access to Hendrick at just 11.5, race winning upside. So if you're looking for pivots off of Larson, I think that Hamlin and Byron are the top 2 guys I would turn to potentially do that. I would rank this second tier Chase Elliott 1, Ryan Blaney 2, Brad Keselowski 3, William Byron 4, Kevin Harvick 5, and Joey Logano 6. Harvick's been better, but just the speed and the 550 package, not quite there enough for me to get super enthused about him. The mid-range is Alex Bowman at $9,500 through Matt DiBenedetto at $8,200. Bowman, Tyler Reddick, and DiBenedetto are all starting 13th or lower for the Saturday race. So they could get you some place differential points. I am pretty intrigued by Reddick. It's not a track you'd usually associate with him. So it's not like a situation where I feel like Reddick is going to benefit from it, but he's going to have speed because he had a top 10 average running position in both Kansas and Charlotte. Both those tracks are multi-groove tracks, but RCR cars have speed and they typically have really good pit strategy, which is a plus here. So Reddick, despite not being a track you would associate with him, I think he's interesting for this week. DiBenedetto is starting 21st. He ran really well in this track type last year, both in Pocono and in Indy. He has been good enough in the package this year for me to like him. So I'd rank him a smidge ahead of Reddick and a smidge ahead of Bowman. But I'd rank this tier DiBenedetto 1. I would go Reddick 2 by a hair over Bowman, but all three definitely interesting. Christopher Bell 4, Kurt Busch 5. I'm a bit skeptical of Busch's raw speed for this week, which is why I'm okay being a bit lower on him. The value tier is Austin Dillon at $8,000 through Ross Chastain at $6,000. Chris Buescher starting 25th in this tier, and I like what he could do from that spot. He is technically a former Pocono winner that happened because of a well-timed rainstorm, so don't count that in his favor. But what does count in his favor is his performance in the 550 package so far this year. Buescher ranks 13th in aggregate average running position across the 5 races. He had top 10 marks in both Homestead and Atlanta. Those tracks both have a lot of tire wear. Pocono does not, so it's not like a super great track to look at, but I do think Buescher will run well here because of the speed Roush Fenway Racing has had at the 550 package so far this year. I want to try to be overweight on Austin Dillon. He's starting in 12th, so it doesn't quite fit the place differential mold, but he's got speed. He ranks 10th in aggregate average running position in the 550 package. That's ahead of Kevin Harvick and Joey Logano. That may seem odd, and maybe it'll make it seem like the idea of putting weight on that is flawed, but like, I think it makes sense. He also has the best ranking in that metric above of anyone with a salary under $9,500. He is $8,000. So I think that Dillon will be a good contrarian pick to pivot among the value plays. I would for cash games favor DiBenedetto and Buescher, but I think that Dillon is someone I want to try to be overweight on for tournaments because I think the speed should be good for him on Saturday. I'll rank this tier Buescher 1, Dillon 2, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. 3, Ross Chastain 4, Eric Jones 5, and Eric Almirola 6. I have not seen enough in the 550 package out of either Eric Jones, or Eric Almirola to like them, even though they're starting outside the top 10. So I'd rather take swipes on Stenhouse, Dillon, Chastain than load up on either Eric, just because I don't think the speed necessarily will be there for them for this week. The punting tier is Daniel Suarez at $5,800 on down. And honestly, looking at this tier, it's not great. There's nobody here I'm super jazzed about. I want to be more balanced in order to avoid this tier. But 3 guys I am willing to consider are Daniel Suarez, Ryan Newman, and Bubba Wallace. Suarez is mostly based on strategy. His crew chief, Travis Mack, knows that this team is not fast. Kudos to him for, having some self-awareness. So he does some like quirky stuff to get track position, and it can work. So with strategy mattering more in Pocono than other places, I think that Suarez actually is kind of interesting. I'll take swipes. He's starting 14th, not like a place differential guy, but I'll take swipes in tournaments. He also does have RCR power. So talked about liking Reddick and Dillon. That should apply to Suarez as well. Newman occasionally has speed in the 550 package. He finished 7th in Homestead. He was 13th in Atlanta. He's $5,300 and starting 19th. It's not inspiring, but it can work. So I guess I'm okay with Newman down there. And Wallace is pretty similar to Newman, where he has occasional speed in this package. He ran well in Charlotte. It's another track with low tire wear, which could bode well for him. Bubba's run well at Indianapolis in the past, though that was with RPM, and they had an affiliation with RCR. So we talked about Dillon and Reddick, Suarez having speed. Wallace benefited from that speed last year and is not with that team anymore. So I would say that nobody in the punting tier is like worthy of core consideration. You want to be above this for your core, but sprinkles of Suarez, Newman, Wallace as potentially being low exposure plays for tournaments who can get you wiggle room to get back up in the upper range more often. Let's finish up here at picks to win. Last year I did picks to win for both Saturday and Sunday. kind of doesn't matter what order they're in, but, let's do it anyway. Definitively winning Saturday, Kyle Larson and Alex Bowman. If we do one above 10,000 and one below it, I'm pretty sure Bowman's been the pick below 10,000 like every race this year when Byron hasn't been down there. So why not? We'll run it back. Larson and Bowman the picks for Saturday. For Sunday, we'll go Hamlin above those at $10,000 or higher, just because I think the speed should be good, knows how to get around this place, knows how to pass at Pocono. We'll take it. And then the guy below $10,000, I kind of want to have some fun with this one because, again, Bowman is one who's highest in my win simulations, followed by, looks like Reddick, and then DiBenedetto, Busher. But let's have some fun. Let's pick Ricky Stenhouse Jr. He's had some speed this year, and if you give him track position on Sunday, he might be able to hold it. So we'll go Hamlin and Stenhouse on Sunday, Larson and Bowman on Saturday as our picks to win for the Pocono doubleheader. That is all the time that we have here for today. Should be a fun weekend. Getting 2 NASCAR slates in one weekend. Gonna be a blast. I'm looking forward to Sunday, especially because, again, we don't get chances where we have clear place differential outlets in a race where we want place differential that often. So to me, these second races doubleheaders are one of the best plus EV races we have the entire year for NASCAR, and it's the only one we have for this year. So looking forward to filling out lineups for that one. If you have questions for me on Twitter, I am at Jim Sannes, JIMSANNES. You can also follow the FanDuel Podcast Network at FanDuel Podcast. Reminder once again to check out Austin Swain's UFC podcast for UFC Vegas 30. That is posted now. Also, the solo shot up for the Friday slate. Find that by searching for the numberFire Daily Fantasy Podcast feed on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts. No matter where you get your podcasts, you can find us. Big thank you to everyone for tuning in. Good luck to you both on Saturday and on Sunday. We'll talk to you once again next week. This has been the Heat Check Fantasy Podcast powered by numberFire.